Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the German prisoners early on in the war? Like, can you tell us when it was and what they were doing there, and then the story about the singing on the sides of the barbed wire?
Well, see, what we did was, well, we were more or less finished basic training, and we were starting unit training. Well, the people in Georgia needed some people to help harvest their peanut crop. So the Army offered these German prisoners a chance to go work in the field to pick peanut, and they were get paid so much a day, 80 cents a day or something, that they could use that money as to buy things in the PX that they had. So they get credit for so much, and they can buy cigarettes or candy or whatever they need from the PX. Now, the United States government treats their prisoners pretty well because they get the same rations that the soldiers get. Like we were drawing rations from the Air Force base, and we were drawing real good rations because the Air Force eats good. But our cooks weren't that good. So a lot of times I slip inside the German compound and eat their food. Because, since I was a supply sergeant, I could get in and out of there. So once in a while I slip in and eat with the Germans. And their cooks were a lot better than our cooks. And their food tasted better. I mean, though we drew the same supply and the same rations, I don't know, their food just tasted better. Then maybe once, twice we got together with them. And we sat on the one side of the barbed wire, and they sat on the other side of the barbed wire. And we start singing a song, and they'd sing a song. We start singing another song, and they'd sing another song. Pretty soon we sing Beer Barrel Polka, and they sing it in German, and we sing it in English. And, there was no modesty against German prisoners, We didn't have nothing personal against them. They were in our care, and we didn't abuse them or nothing. And they didn't try to get away because they were living a good life. So they didn't have to fight no more. And they were getting fed good. They were clothed. So all they had was a big PW painted on their back. And so that's how we got together with the German prisoners. But as far as, the way we guarded them, we had, well, if they wanted to get away, they could have got away easily, I think. All we had was 4 posts all the way around the thing, made like a square with strands of barbed wire around there. And then we had a Jeep on catty corners, so they could fire both ways and they won't hit each other. So we had Jeep mounted with machine guns on both sides, on both ends, so they had 2 clear line of fire. So that's how we guarded them, with the machine guns, and then we had walking patrol in between. And but I don't remember anybody trying to get away.
They have nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they got into civilian clothes, well, we couldn't tell them apart because, they're white.
Right.
And most of that area is white, see? The only thing they couldn't speak English, they had to speak. But we had, they didn't give us no trouble. So we didn't abuse them neither.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is when the 100th Battalion became your first battalion, the 442nd. Now you said that there were, early on in training, there was clashing between the mainland boys and the islanders. How was it with the 100th, who have been fighting for so long? and then here comes the 442. Was there any friction between?
There was never no friction between the 100th and the 442. The 100th was an older bunch, and as far as before then, the only time we had any contact with them is when they came to Mississippi to join in maneuvers with us. And right after that maneuvers, they left for overseas. That's the only time in the States that we had any contact with the 100th. Then we didn't see the 100th again until we got to Italy. And we landed in Naples, and the 100th was already fighting up north toward Rome. And they were almost into Rome when we got up to the northern part of Italy, Viareggio. When we got to Viareggio, I think they took Rome. But the 100th was kept outside the city, so a white troop could get in there. And I really think that that was for publicity purpose, because the 100th should have been allowed to go into Rome. And I think it had a lot to do with prejudice. Same thing with the Lost Battalion. There was a lot of prejudice there, but I'll get into that later.
Actually, I did want to talk about the Lost Battalion and what you saw and how you may have felt about Dahlquist and his whole role in the Lost Battalion.
Well, to this day, I feel very bitter toward General Dahlquist. As president of the 442, I was asked to make a recommendation praising General Dahlquist. And I told the people that I was going to attend a reunion with the 36th Division people. I told them that I could not do that because I really thought that General Dahlquist used us as cannon fodder. We were expendable as far as he was concerned. He had, 8 other battalions, combat battalions, to go in and get that one battalion. But he didn't use them to go get their own men. He elected us to go in to get them, even though we're just coming off the line. We're being on the line for a long time. And we had a lot of wounded then and stuff. But then he ordered us back into combat. And we were short-handed to begin with already now, since so many of our people were already wounded, taking Bruers. But he decided the 442 was the outfit to go get the Lost Battalion. But to this bitter date, I still think that he used us as cannon fodder. We were expendable. But I think maybe it turned out better for us. That gave us the publicity of rescuing the Lost Battalion. They didn't try to hide that, you know. We got the publicity of rescuing the Lost Battalion. And I think in the long run, that helped our cause defeat prejudice in this country.
Now that the war is over, moving forward, and you're coming back home to the United States, can you tell us a little bit about the journey home, where you landed and what you did and how you came back?
Well, when we first went to Italy, it took us 30 days to get there on a Liberty boat. But coming home, I was put on a troop transport. And since I was in top 3 grades, I got to sleep above deck. And the guys that, below the top 3 grades, sergeant and below, They had to sleep in the holes, and they had those troops transports crammed pretty good. But nobody minded being crammed up because we're going home. See, so it only took us 10 days to get from Italy to Newport News, Virginia. See, we left Naples, and instead of 30 days, it made it in 10 days because we didn't have to go zigzagging all over the Atlantic Ocean dodging U-boats. So we didn't have to come back in a convoy. We just came back on our own as a troop ship. And it just took us 10 days. Then we got to Patrick Henry in Newport News, Virginia. And the first meal we got was steak. I still remember that. That steak tasted so good, you know. This time I could put ketchup or whatever I want on it. But ice cream, and that first meal was really out of this world because, you know, so long you have army ration, you know. And that's one thing I can remember is about that first dinner that we had in Patrick Henry. And so we left from Newport News, Virginia. We landed back there. Then after we got processed when we got back into the States, they gave us, you know, clothing and stuff. Then they put us on troop train, and they sent us all the way across this country, and I landed back in Fort MacArthur, San Pedro, where I got discharged. And coming home on the troop train, we'd stop at different little towns, you know, and had to wait for some train to come by or something. And somebody would take up a collection and go get a couple bottles of booze, and we were drinking booze all, having a good time coming home because everybody's happy, you know, they're getting out of the army. So they'd all chip in and buy some booze. Mostly Hakujin guys, you know, on the train, but they didn't care whether I booed ahead or not. They were passing the bottle to me just as fast as I was passing it to them. And so we had a good time coming home across the country because the war was over and everybody's still celebrating. But right after the war, we had guard duty mostly. But right after we got off the line, I take that back, we went to a place called Getty Airport. And at the airport, I think we had to process so many thousand German soldiers. They came from all parts of northern Italy and southern part of Austria to give up. So we were the first troops to get at them. And whatever that the German soldier had that wasn't issued to him, we had to take away. Well, especially like they had whiskey and civilian goods and stuff. We took it all away from them. And the liquor, well, we put it in our day room. Heck, we had over 200 bottles of booze in the day room. And you know, anybody wanted to drink, they go help themselves. And we'd search all the German prisoners. We took away money. And some of the companies got a hold of the German paymaster. They had a little box, you know, tin box. And they had a lot of Italian liras in the thing, all brand new, most of it. Well, you know, we confiscate that, but we wouldn't turn it in. And cameras and stuff guys had, we'd take all that away and we'd keep it, we wouldn't turn it in. And we figured that's part of the booty, war booty, that. So we stripped the Germans of everything, and then they processed them to their prison camps. But since we had the first chance at them, we got a lot of good stuff. And part of that money I donated to Danny Noe. But before I gave it to Danny, I had to convert part of that into invasion currency. And when Danny was in the hospital, I went to see him. And at that time, they wouldn't let non-com go visit officers. Officers were quartered in one part of the hospital and enlisted men in another part. Anyway, I went back and I got one field commissioned lieutenant to lend me his lieutenant bars. So I went in, put the bars on, go into the hospital, people saluting me on the street. And I know what the hell they saluted me for. I saluted them back and finally got to the hospital. I went to see Danny. Told Danny, I says, I don't know when the paycheck gonna catch up with you, but here's some money, And Danny calls it his cut, but it wasn't his cut. It was money that I took away from Germans and I converted part of it. There's no way for me to get it home. Some of them mailed bought money orders and sent it home, and most of us blew it any way they could blow it. And so I gave Danny the money, and he says he donated to the Red Cross, and that they had a big article on him donating the money to the Red Cross and the Stars and Stripes, he said. Well, I didn't see it, but I take his word for it. And to this day, he tells people, you know that Yamate? He come up to the hospital and he bought somebody's bars, and he came up and see me, and he gave me some money, and he says, that's my cut. Anyway, Danny still remembers that incident. And he still calls me the biggest thief in the Army because he knows what I did to get things to get for the company. But Danny, when he says that, it's in good humor, it's just kidding me. But I would not like somebody to mean what that said, because I wasn't trying to steal for myself, I'd steal for the company. And well, I hope the War Department don't get a hold of this tape, because if I had to pay for everything that I moonlighted, I would have to be paying the rest of my life, I guess. But you do what you have to do in combat.
At this time, where is your wife? Is she still in the camps?
She was still in camps.
And when did you meet? Where and when did you meet up with her?
Oh, she stayed there till after the war, when they opened up the West Coast to the Japanese Americans to come back to the West Coast. In fact, my employer at the banana house, which I was working, he asked her and my son to come stay with him and his mother until I got out of service. So she was one of the first ones back into Pasadena area. And she stayed there with him until I joined them when I got out of service, which was might have been a half a year later. But that Italian fellow was real nice to my wife and I, and I'm ever grateful for whatever he's done for us.
Now, we've already talked about the Union and what you went through there. If we move on a little bit further, what happened then? You were in the Union then, and you started working as a driver? Is that right?
No, I went to work as a dispatcher and a salesman. when I went back after the war, because that was my position just when I left. At that time, I was the only Japanese in the company, and as there was other openings, I would bring Japanese Americans back into that company to help me work the bananas. It was hard work, and the overtime was good, because that enabled us to get on our feet. We were put in 40 hours in 2 days sometimes, and the rest of the week would be overtime. And I don't know whether we got all our overtime, but we got a good chunk of it because we were getting pretty good healthy checks at that time. And some weeks you don't figure you're going to get too much, and heck, you get a bigger check than you expect. So who's to know whether we were cheated out of some overtime or not? I don't think so, because the man was give us an extra paycheck every once in a while. If he made money, he'd give it to us as like a bonus, So the hard work that we did, I don't think anybody got gypped out of anything. But at one time, I had 6 or 8 Japanese Americans that worked with me, because every time Mexican or Cuomo quit working, I'd bring Japanese Americans. See, because they were my buddies, I'd bring my buddies in there. And so most of them are pretty well. Some went to college after that. And I think working there in the bananas helped them get started.
Now you're very involved in the Nisei Veterans organizations. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you got involved?
Well, the way I got involved initially is that I helped get the fruit for the big reunion here in Los Angeles quite a few years ago. I was asked to see if I can get some fruits for the hospitality rooms. At that time, I didn't know I was going to have 16 hospitality rooms. Anyway, one big farmer from up north, he sent down a big pallet of fruit, which was about 60 boxes. And various produce houses here in Los Angeles helped donate fruit to the thing. In the end, we wound up with about 500 boxes of fruit for the 16 hospitality rooms. Well, we divided them up according to the size of their hospitality room, which we had the main hospitality room, which got quite a bit of the fruit. And we had so much fruit that some companies didn't even come down and get it. Because the reason I know for that is the hotel was serving that fruit for some of the banquets or breakfast that we went to. And but that's how I started getting involved with 442. Then anytime Danny Nowhere would come to Los Angeles, they'd ask me to help transport him. And little bit by little bit, I started getting more and more involved with the 442. And for a long time, it was at mostly company level. Then, 2 years ago, Colonel Kim asked me to become president of the association. And I told Colonel, well, I don't think I'm qualified to do that. And Colonel says, I think you can do it. And I said to him, well, if you believe that I can do it, I'll try it. So that's when I become involved in becoming president. Usually, you become vice president, then president, or you go to a meeting as delegates and stuff. But no, I didn't have any of that training. They just broke me in cold. And Henry Kemoto and George Nishinaka and Hank Yoshitake, they helped me along the way, They said, hey, call for approval of this or that. You know, I miss calling for approval. Now you got to have them vote on it. You know, they're back there telling me what to do. Finally, I got the hang of it, so you know now I can do it on my own. But when you go in the court, you don't even know what kind of meeting, what the meeting is about or anything. Then they put together an agenda for me every before each meeting, so I didn't have to worry about that. So between the three of them, I squeezed by the first year, and then the second year was automatic because they say you got to go another term another year because it's a 2-year term. I said, you guys didn't tell me that when I first was decided to accept the office, but now you tell me a year later. And I said, okay, I'll go another year. And then when they're trying to get another president to go this coming year, they're having a little trouble because nobody wants to become president or nobody wants to become officers because they don't want to get involved, I guess. But anyway, I told an association that since the monument wasn't built in October, wasn't dedicated in October, that I would go another year to see that the monument is done, so that there will be no friction between the association and the foundation. I says, I want to make sure that the monument going to be done next year with the least amount of static. So I decided I would, I asked my wife and she said, well, if you believe in doing it, go ahead. So I decided, well, I'll go the third year, which is nobody else has done yet. And I would like to stay until this monument is built, done. Then I would like to step aside.
Real quickly, we have about 2 minutes left on the tape. Do you have a message to the Yonsei and the Gosei who may see this video or learn about the 442? Do you have any kind of message to them?
Well, the Sansei, Yonsei, and Goseis, well, to you, I plead that you will carry on our legacy for the monument in remembrance of the 100, 442, and the MIS and the 1322. And I would like to have all you people participate and get your friends to join in and participate to carry on our legacy, because I feel that it is real important that what we did keeps going on in history. It's something it's a story that needs to be told and told often, not just put on the bookshelf and forget about, because we've overcome prejudice, but who knows, it can come back any time. And I would not like to see what happened to us happen to any of you people in the future generations, because what happened to us is something that we can never forget.
Is there anything else that you want to say real quickly that maybe I might have forgotten?
No, I think everything's pretty well covered.
I'd like to thank you for your time here and also for your time 50 somewhat years ago and doing what you did and allowing us to have the freedoms that we have. And I'd just like to thank you for all of that.
The reason I agree to this is that I would like to see not just myself, but I would like to see this program continue and not put aside after the monument is built. Because you people, the Sansei, Yonsei, Gosei, got a hard road to hoe yet, you know. I mean, this has not been done. It is not finished. You guys got to tell the story. Keep telling the story. People ask me, can you come to this function to say a little bit about the organization and stuff? If my calendar is clear, I would always be glad to do it. And whatever I can help you young people into carrying on this legacy, feel free to call on me, because that's how strongly I feel about this monument.